No, I did it. Like, he was like, hey, join.
Yeah. Still has to be a. That's, hey, you're unmuted. No.
I have I mean, I know him, because he worked,
Appointed still.
Was it not on the council?
and I was not here.
It was.
I said he wasn't appointed.
He needs to be appointed again.
He wasn't there.
I'll talk to you after.
No, it was Jeff. She was Jeff and that was it.
I got on,
The ordinance for the
I
council.
got the invite, I was like, yeah, I'll do it. And
Yeah.
then I realized there was no,
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, well, I think I just assumed these days.
Right. That's fair. Mike's on? Yeah.
Yeah. I emailed her like,
I pick somebody up and it's.
Alright.
That's what.
Day,
yeah.
yeah, work. What was your excuse? Oh, I'm kidding. But not yet. You're right.
Got.
Because they pay. They have. Elected position.
We ate today because they said I had.
Oh, national elected.
Yeah. I'm Chris Mooney. I'm Chris Mooney. I'm good. Oh, that's Chris Mooney.
Well, he got in.
Going down the fan. Man, how you're in? You got use.
Right away now.
Oh, yeah, I would have been here. So. There you go, since you just called and told me what my ear was. I said, what are you? Oh, I don't have anything. He said, oh, somebody does. And I got, it's awful. They said, oh, I said, well, go see your team 13. And
Fine like that.
I did.
Feel clear.
So they want to come and draw that.
For nothing.
I unmuted up there of it. Drop.
Huh?
I
You want me to
unmuted.
do that?
Uh-huh.
Okay, check.
Appoint you.
Yeah, for you. Yeah.
Oh.
How you doing?
John.
Hey, no
How
bill.
you doing?
Right.
Joey.
Bill.
All right, how you doing, dude?
Good.
Practicing the handshake.
You doing all right?
You got it again?
Huh?
You ready?
No, but I have a project up here, so I need your support. I do have a rezone coming up for the community center. There you go.
It's your time. Please come to the podium.
Oh, I will. Certainly will. All right. And he didn't have to run that.
That's the strong.
This is 25, so there's no election to be 26.
No.
Wow.
He always puts on.
I did. I just.
He's in the council. No, he's ever taken. No, but Darren wanted to go.
What?
Build any conditional uses. We could let it go.
Even on midterms?
I couldn't remember how went.
Got a bunch of.
People are just not here. So I don't know.
I was like,
Wait.
hey there.
This is hard supposed to go today. Oh, God, yeah.
Joe's in charge?
So you better be ready to be on your game. Need some seconds.
Joe,
Go on.
80.
Charles in charge.
It's about Parker, they'll do all that as a site, you know, when they get to that. This is nice of the rezone, then with the rezone. Then conditional use.
Seen that before. haven't you?
So I tried to, you're right, but no, I don't, the I did try that V8 actually. I tried, I was like, because people. Robotic, we're like.
Yeah, they got it.
$2 and something. I was kidding. And I mean, people are ordering. And of course, these were upper tier.
Yeah.
They're ordered.
Yeah.
It's paying barely.
There.
And,
He was online.
you know, try one. And they were actually pretty good. I don't know if they're $2.27 a can again. It's a probiotic.
I got it matching.
I don't like.
Yeah, station.
Did you get mail too? Yeah.
You guys ready?
Yeah, Google.
Good, Brenda?
All right, yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, everybody, it's 6 o'clock. So we're going to call to order the March 4th, 2025 Centerton Planning Commission meeting and we'll start with a roll call.
Brandon Swoboda,
Here.
Tommy Davis, and Lewis, John Sessoms,
Here.
Craig Langford,
Here.
Devin Murphy,
Here.
Joey Engel,
Here.
Jeff Safar.
All right. The first item we have up is the approval of minutes from the 2/18 meeting of 2025.
Don, a motion to approve the minutes from 2/18/25.
A motion and a second that has been approved. The next item is the ratification of the administrative approvals. It's like we had 5 items here. Is there anything staff needs to go over on those? No. All right, I'd entertain a motion on those unless you have some questions on it.
Motion to approve admin approvals.
All right, we got a motion and a second, so item 4 is passed. No old business, so we're gonna move right into new business. We have 3 public hearings tonight. So if you're in the audience to come up to speak, please wait for us to open the public hearing on each item. When you do want to come up, come to the podium, state your name and address, and then we ask that you limit your comment to 3 minutes. So thank you for that. So item A is a public hearing for rezone 2501 KHM 2S2 Homes LLC. It's a rezone from A1 to C3 on North Main Street in North Lexington Place, containing 4.95 acres. Is the applicant here?
I am.
All right, can you come tell us about your request?
I'm Hunter Collins with Craft and Toll. Here to ask for a rezone from A1 to C3, roughly 5 acres. The intent is to rezone to neighborhood commercial for walkability. This is going to be a pickleball complex, indoor and outdoor courts, a pro shop, as well as concessions, bar and grill. Associated parking, there's also the intent to later phases do a coffee shop, drive-through coffee shop, and then some retail space. Are there any questions that I can answer?
No, sir. If you can have a seat, we're gonna go through staff comments and then we'll open up a public hearing. So just a reminder, this is just the rezone 2501. This is from A1 to C3, so we're not gonna consider any proposed uses right now, other than all of those that are in C3. So I believe this is Terrace. All right.
The parcel is, or the applicant is requesting a zoning from A1 to C3. They plan to sell / develop after they rezone. It'll change owners. And we didn't receive any public comments, and all of their notices and all of their requirements were met. This parcel is located on the west side of North Main Street near North Lexington Place. The properties to the north and to the south are zoned A1. To the west is the Forest Park subdivision, and to the east is Tuscany Phase 2. Both are zoned R2. And the corner property on the west side of North Main and Seba Road is zoned C3. The planning commission reviewed rezoning requests for this property back in 2020 and 2021. The request was for RTH MF12, was withdrawn at one meeting, while the request for RTHD /C1 was withdrawn at a separate meeting. In 2001, the request for R2SF and C3 was denied, and this property has access from North Main Street, and there are no existing structures currently on site. So for the current requested zoning, it's C3, which is the neighborhood commercial zoning. The zoning is primarily for convenience shopping and services such as grocery stores, barbers, beauty shops, laundromats, drugstores, taverns, professional offices, and similar uses. And they provide convenient shopping for the surrounding area. The setback requirements are 25 for the front, 10 for the side, and 10 for street side, and then 25 for the rear. The main street is designated as a minor arterial with 90 feet of right of way that includes MSP. Minor arterials support major roadways and often intersect with major arterials, which serve as the main spine within the community, connect to adjacent communities. The typical street section for minor arterials does include a 10-foot trail on both sides. Centerton water is available along North Main Street. There's a sanitary sewer line that runs north and south through Forest Park, and Tuscany Phase 2 also has one that runs north and south. Per the land use plan, this area is designated as commercial. These areas encourage greater variety within Centerton's housing stock and allow for more flexibility to build denser residential development in proximity to the city's major roadways, such as Centerton Boulevard and Highway 102. This parcel is located in Node 4 on the Economic Development Framework. Node 4 is an area along Seba Road and Highway 102B, which includes larger neighborhood commercial development, which due to its size has the ability to serve the entire northern half of the city rather than just adjacent residences. Capacity and scale necessitate stronger design standards to ensure compatibility with neighboring residentials. Based on the goals of the current comprehensive plan and the area rezone for C3 is consistent. This parcel is directly adjacent to the undeveloped parcels to the north and south, which are zone A1. To the west is the Forest Park subdivision. Like I said, it's zone R2, and to the east is Tuscany, which is also zoned R2. The property to the northwest of the property on the northwest corner of North Main Street and Seba Road is zone C3, and it's the location of the Casa Castillo daycare, which is zone C3. Based on the surrounding zoning and existing uses, the rezone request for C3 is compatible. For planning commission's consideration, the proposed rezone is or not consistent with the following, and they are listed for your guys' review. Let me know if you have any questions.
All right, so we got staff comment. I guess let's go ahead and open up the public hearing.
Greg, I'll make a motion to open public hearing for rezone 25-01.
Second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. So the public hearing for item A is currently open. So if you're here to discuss that or talk about that, please come to the podium.
I'll just stick with the rezoning at the moment.
Yes, sir.
I'm Chris Mooney. We are the lot just south of 25 North Main Street. It's clearly a residential. There's a relatively new farmhouse. I like it, 3,000 square feet. We have probably the oldest usable farmhouse in Centerton on property. 150 grapevines, 2 barns, 3-car garage, a potting shed, another thing that used to be called a Christmas store, and a pole barn, along with 18 fruit trees that I've planted, 16 green giants. So we're this or that. It is very much residential, ladies. To the north of us is another residence. They just put a new roof on their house, so I don't think they're planning on tearing it down anytime soon to put up a commercial facility.
To the north of this property.
To the north of the property, this one right here. They just put a new roof on the house 3 weeks ago. That's $1 million house right there. I hope you know what I'm talking about, that beautiful thing in the beautiful setting. That is another very nice house. These are $750,000 Tuscany homes. This, which the commission, the staff seem to be a little concerned about. This is still open space, just zoned residential, and all of this is residential with some open spots. So I know this fits the plan. and the desires of, based on the plan. If you say it's consistent with the neighborhood, you're fabricating. If you say it will not have an impact, negative impact on existing homeowners, you're fabricating.
Thanks, sir. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak? All right. Final call. All right, entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved. Second.
All right, we got a motion that moved and a second. So, is there any discussion that we would like to have before we go through our findings down here? No?
No, like I said, I mean, I remember this coming to us several years ago, for residential, multifamily duplexes, things of that nature, and we specifically said that this corridor was to remain in a commercial space to provide commercial for the north end of town.
Mhm.
And that's been in alignment with the master use plan for several years before either property was purchased, right?
I don't know when they.
I don't know when they purchased. I think, I remember both of those northern properties being for sale. I just don't remember
Correct.
if the plan was public.
Ours,
before.
the modern farmhouse was built in 2007 by the third generation of the Andersons.
But nothing's changed with future plan, this being commercial.
Correct. All right, let's run through our questions that we're asked to contemplate for every rezoning here. So A, is the rezoning consistent with the adopted comprehensive plan, including the adopted land use? If not, why? Personally, I'm gonna say it is a dead ringer for the comp plan and the land use plan. Do you disagree? No. No. B, is the proposed rezoning compatible with the surrounding area and zones? We heard from Mr. Mooney with the existing, some of the existing uses on the agricultural land. I think it is up in the air. It does match the land use plan. It does match the large PUD commercial piece that was rezoned and is currently under construction to the south of it where the Casa Castillo is. So what do y'all have to say on this?
I'm on the fence with that as well, even though that's listed as A1, it is residential, and you do want commercial right next to residential. But it's only A1 because it's been so long since those homes have been sold that they're not rezoned as residential.
Yeah, technically it's agriculture.
Yeah, technically it's agriculture, farmland, but it's being used as residential.
And by nature, the requested zoning is C3 neighborhood commercial, so that kind of has some.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is an interesting question because is it compatible with the current zone? Not the futures zone plan, like which way does this question go? Like which way are we answering it? Both?
Just says is the proposed rezoning compatible with the surrounding area and zones. Rabel?
I mean, yeah, you gotta interpret that as to what it is. So is it, I would say, is it compatible with our vision?
Gotcha.
Oh, okay.
Well, that was what was asked in the first question. Let's go back to, is it compatible with the existing?
Yeah, I'd say it's compatible with the vision, if that's the way you look at it.
Well, it says zones plural, so it's not like the adjacent zone, it's the vicinity of the area. And I think the entire rest of that the rest of that road being commercial already for Casa Castillo and everything else.
Even south of, I forgot.
That's what I mean, like the rest of that, even south on Seba, yeah, all the way down Main Street, that entire corridor is.
And again, we're talking neighborhood commercial, so by nature, it's adjacent.
I think that's a big piece of that. It's the neighborhood. Non-industrial
Yeah.
is not
Not see.
If you're
highway
asking
highway
for
commercial.
C1 or C2, no.
C3.
Yeah, I mean,
It's designed to be for the community around it.
Agreed. Okay, I'm gonna say yes. C, would all the permitted uses in the new zone be compatible in this location and surrounding areas? I'm gonna go back to the same thing. Personally, neighborhood commercial. It is meant to provide services for the surrounding neighborhoods. Anybody have anything else to say on that one? We agree on that? Okay. D, would this rezoning provide a benefit to this landowner but not be considered for other similar properties in the area? I'm gonna say no. We actually had the opposite here, right? We've heard of, two previous rezoning attempts that weren't fully commercial that were denied because they didn't meet the provision. I'm gonna say no, but it does not provide a benefit. Everybody agree? Is the public opposed? Why? Are the objections based upon factual information relating directly to this request or opinion based? Is any factual information presented apply to this rezoning situation? Again, Mr. Mooney came up. You know, we have an odd area here that is transitioning to commercial by design. And I think these are part of the problems that you have with that, unfortunately. Is there any more discussion that we would like to have? No? All right, if not, I'd entertain a motion.
Ms. Craig, I'll make a motion to approve rezone 25-01 from A1 to C3.
I'm gonna second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Can we do a roll call, please?
Tony Davis. Brandon Swoboda.
Yes.
Ken Lewis.
Yes.
Devin Murphy.
Yes.
John Sessoms.
yes.
Yes.
Joey Engel.
Yes. All right, item A has passed the rezone A1 to C3. Moving to item B, I believe is the same parcel. This is a public hearing for conditional use 2502 Centerton Pickleball Courts. Recreational facility, indoor, outdoor, and on-premise alcohol consumption at North Main Street in North Lexington. Same applicant, I assume? All right, you wanna give us the scoop on this one?
So it's essentially the same thing. So this went with the rezone. They're contingent upon each other. So, you know, if one doesn't pass, we need to squash the other. So if there are any questions, I can do my best to answer those. What you have been provided is a concept plan. So anything on there is subject to move to whatever codes you need. That's just to kind of get an idea of what we're trying to do. There's going to be a green space area between the inside and outside for people to gather, hang out. We will do landscaping, buffering, as well as fencing, anything that's required to keep sound barrier. We have access for utilities.
So we got multiple buildings going on here. Are these outdoor? Okay, so we have an indoor and an outdoor.
Correct.
And what's in the middle there?
So green space in the middle, that would be where people can sit and gather and, you know, eat.
Then you have a I was talking about the magenta, is that a restaurant?
Correct. And also a pro shop.
Sure.
The intent is to have.
The darkened areas are not included with this request.
Sure, just future. Okay,
It's all one structure.
do what now?
These two
The blue and the pink.
is
Oh,
one,
okay.
one structure.
Can I ask you a question? This will probably be beneficial if you can kind of go through some of these items that y'all considered, but if you picked up on it, part of the land use plan in this neighborhood commercial was, I'm gonna paraphrase, but it's design compatibility with the surrounding residential area. So to me, that includes screening materials. What sort of items have y'all considered or you can just share? I know this is concept.
Right.
But those are things that we're gonna be talking about tonight and putting stipulations on.
I understand. Yeah, and we're willing to do any kind of screening that is needed. We don't, this is a high level plan, so we haven't picked out an architect or anything like that. So it's hard for me to give those answers. The civil engineering side of things, so making sure that everything works. And so any kind of zoning that we need, or not zoning, any kind of buffering that we need or setbacks, I can speak to those, but I can't speak to materials.
Sure. I know in the previous areas south of you, when those came through, one was a PUD, one was also a conditional use. We had asked for, one was a gas station, for instance, right? So we asked for more of the neighborhood design with the, you know, the stone wall, just kind of to blend it in. Have y'all had any of those conversations?
We have not yet, and we will work with y'all's staff on those kinds of scenarios. Absolutely.
Great. That's all I have. Does anybody have anything else?
Yeah, I know you said this was high level, but one thing that stands out is having outdoor courts closer to the neighborhoods behind it. So I think about people out there at 9 o'clock at night hitting the ball. So if you flipped it, maybe it would be more beneficial for those homeowners from that
Absolutely.
standpoint.
Yeah, we're absolutely open.
Thought.
This is just for us to piecemeal, and that makes perfect sense. Absolutely.
Part, where's that home on the property to the north? You flip it, you bring it closer to that one, or is that one in the back?
Closer to the.
There's a lot, there's a lot in between that and the one to the north.
If you go to the.
It's right in their backyard, so who they're backing up to, but that's a suggestion. We know this is high level, just something to think about when you're designing.
Yes, sir.
And to be fair, we're talking about one home versus 10. I got a way pros and cons there. And another home that. There's this whole area. I guess those don't have,
See the
those
property
don't have homes on them. But still, you have to assume it's built out as a platted subdivision lot. The piece to the north is, you know, in the same situation that this was. It's A1 currently, land use plan of.
So will this be coming through as a large scale? I mean, we're seeing the big picture view right now.
Yeah, I would go through a large
Let's
scale.
get the curve and the conceptual.
I think another key.
Conditioning.
Okay, okay.
Another key item might be, were there any requests that, yeah, okay, for the hours of operation?
That was gonna be my next question.
9 PM on the courts, is that 7 days a week?
Yes, sir, as far as I know.
And 11 on the indoor, 10 PM on the bar and restaurant. Great. That's all we have for now. We're gonna run through staff.
Thank you.
Is this one yours too?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's have it.
So same as the rezone, the property is located on the west side of North Main and North Lexington Place. Like we've been mentioning, to the north is a 5-acre residential. And to the south is also a 5-acre residential, but they're both zone A1. To the east is Tuscany, and to the west is the Forest Park subdivision, and then on that corner of Main Street and Seba is the Casa Castillo development. The applicant is proposing a pickleball complex with indoor, outdoor courts, courtyard, restaurant with a bar and kitchen, and a pro shop. Future phases may include additional retail buildings and parking. Per Title 14, recreational facilities, indoor and outdoor, which is uses 61 and 62, and on-premise alcohol consumption use 100 do require a conditional use permit. Any of the future phases that include additional structures will require the submittal and approval of a PUD. This parcel has a rezone request also that we just went through to rezone it from A1 to C3. And so the approval of this conditional use will be contingent on council's approval on 3/11. So currently the proposed zoning, like we discussed in C3, which is neighborhood commercial. The zone is primarily for serving residential areas with commercial uses. For the surrounding zones and uses, the parcels directly adjacent to the 2 undeveloped parcels to the north and south. They're A1, but are designated as commercial on the land use plan. To the west is the Forest Park subdivision, which is zoned R2, and to the east of North Main Street is Tuscany, zoned R2. The property at the northwest corner of Main Street and Seba is the location of Casa Castillo, and it's zoned C3. For the proposed uses, the following uses are proposed as part of the conditional use permit. They have indoor pickleball courts, which is indoor recreation, which is 24,000 square feet. Covered outdoor pickleball courts, which is outdoor recreation facilities, which is 18,000 square feet. A bar and restaurant. For on-premise alcohol consumption, it's 10,800 square feet. And for the pro shop, which would be retail less than 4,000 square feet. It is allowed by right in C3, so that isn't gonna be a part of the conditional use request. We just review exactly in the complex what uses will be there, and that's 2,800 square feet. The applicant is proposing the following phasing of the conditional use request. In phase 1, they want to do the indoor courts, the reception area, and the pro shop. In phase 2, they want to expand and do the bar, restaurant, green space area, and outdoor courts. Future phases are not to be considered with this conditional use, but they may include a retail building 1 and 2, and then phase 4 is to be determined. Future phases that include additional structures will require the submittal and approval of a PUD. Water again is available along North Main Street, and then there's a sanitary sewer line that runs north and south through Forest Park, and a sanitary sewer line that runs north and south in Tuscany. Main Street's designated as a minor arterial. It's got 90 feet of right of way. Minor arterials support the major roadways. As of this time, there are no trails or planned, there's no trails planned along the section of North Main Street on the master trail plan. The property has access from North Main Street. The current concept plan does not provide connectivity to the north or south properties, which are also slated for commercial on the land use plan. The adopted comprehensive plan specifically states that development should implement cross-access connections to improve connectivity and reduce curb cuts along major corridors, which does improve roadway operations. Staff does recommend connectivity be required with this development to meet the intent of the comprehensive plan. For planning commission's consideration, per the comprehensive plan, the comp plan encourages developers to add connectivity to their site as part of their development. The planning commission can set a condition to require this development to have connectivity to the north and to the south. So that's for you guys to think about.
You guys wanna go one by one or just get through all of it and then come back to each one?
Let's get the overview and then we'll come back. Might have to keep us on track though.
It's
Make
fine.
sure we hit them all.
Yeah, I will remind you guys. So the current term of approval and expiration, the applicant is requesting this conditional use for an indefinite period of time. Staff does recommend that large-scale development plans must be submitted within a year of planning commission approval. If this condition is not met, this conditional use will require reapproval. Approval of this use permit will expire within 1 year if construction is not begun and will require reapplication and reapproval. The applicant's proposing the following hours of operation for each use. The outdoor courts from 8 to 9, indoor from 6 to 11, bar and restaurant from 11 to 10. And the pro shop, we will need to get clarification from the owner, but there's an assumption that it'll run when the pickleball courts are running. Because it's kind of like an admin space where people can check in and out. Staff does recommend the approval of the proposed hours of operation. The outdoor courts will close earlier than the indoor courts and restaurants, reducing sound, noise, and ensuring compatibility with the nearby residential areas. This balance allows for recreational use without disturbing the neighborhood. Again, for your guys' consideration, approved hours of operation for the use are outlined below. Any requests to modify them outside of the specified windows will require an amendment to the conditional use permit. A lighting plan will be provided as part of the large-scale development plan. Lighting on the site should protect the privacy of the property owners by limiting the potential for glare and light trespass and protect drivers and pedestrians from glare that will impair safe traveling. For your consideration, Planning Commission can put specific conditions on site lighting within a development, giving special considerations to the impact this development will have on the surrounding properties and streets. Screening and landscape screening. The applicant proposes screening along the west side of the pickleball courts. So if you're looking at the courts and you're going to look to the west, they're proposing some sort of screening. We're not sure of the material. And then there's no additional screening as of right now or landscape buffering proposed. The residential compatibility standards outlined in Title 14 are intended to protect low-density residential uses and neighborhoods from the adverse impact sometimes associated with higher density residential uses and non-residential development. The standards are intended to mitigate the efforts of uses with operating and structural characteristics that are vastly different than those associated with single-family uses. And that's going to be per the Title 14 Title 14 residential compatibility standards. Decorative walls, vegetative screening, fencing, or berms, or other types of screening as approved by the planning commission shall be provided to completely screen off street parking areas, mechanical equipment storage areas, and refuse collection areas from view of triggering properties. Additionally, no swimming pool, tennis court, ball field, or playground area except those that are not accessories to a single-family dwelling unit shall be permitted within 30 feet of the lot line of the triggering property. Staff recommends requiring a dedicated landscape buffer between this development and the residential subdivision to the west to protect the existing residential from the noise and the light created by the proposed recreational use and landscape screening around the refuse collection areas, the dumpster enclosures and such. Additional screening should be considered for the north and the south property lines, which are currently being used as residential. For your guys' consideration, the planning commission can require additional specific screening materials and landscape screening requirements to protect the existing residential from the noise or the light created by the proposed recreational use and landscape screening around refuse collection areas. Additional landscape requirements may be required with large-scale developments or subdivision plans. The applicant does propose, this is just for landscaping alone on property. The applicant proposes islands with green space within the parking lot. However, at this moment, they are not shown to be landscaped. No landscaping is proposed with the provided concept. It just looks like a bunch of open green space currently. Staff recommends trees to be planted within the landscaping islands. Landscape islands will be required every 10 parking spaces. For planning commission's consideration, the current Title 15 does not have landscape requirements. The planning commission can require specific landscaping within the development, including but not limited to street trees, parking lot islands with landscaping, and landscaping within the development. The parking requirements for Title 14 requires 1 parking space for 200 gross square feet for retail and restaurants, and 1 space per 300 gross feet per the PUD code for assembly areas. And there's a little chart there that kind of gives you a breakdown. There is a chance and a possibility of it being reworked at some point with future phases, what have you, but that kind of gives like a overlay of what would be required. For your consideration, the applicant has not requested any specific parking ratio for the development, which means there might be different uses within the development that might have shared parking, and that's something to take into consideration. The planning commission can allow parking to be shared between uses or require the development to meet the actual Title 15 code for parking. So then we get into the special conditions. The term of approval is recommended indefinitely or until the use on site changes. The expiration we outlined before, basically just stating that if the plans have to be submitted within a year of planning commission approval of the conditional use. If this condition's not met, then they will have to come back and get the conditional use reapproved. It will expire 1 year after the large scale developments are approved. If construction hasn't begun, they will require a reapplication and reapproval of all of it. The approved conditional uses, so the following uses have been. Oh, you can take a look at it.
Some of you guys have to determine.
It'll be repeated, but
Yeah, so I'll just-
the highlighted in yellow is to be determined by you guys, which is when we discussed for your guys' consideration. And if you want me to go back so we can have a discussion, just let me know.
Okay. You guys want to have any discussion before we open the public hearing?
Yeah, I want to go back to number 11 on the landscape screen.
Mhm.
It says that, additional screening should be considered on the north and south property line. I think it should be required.
For sure.
If not, it should be considered. It shall be required.
We're recommending that you
We're
guys consider
recommending
it.
that you
We
guys
can't put
consider
those
it.
conditions.
Does the code not,
We're gonna set all that.
Dan.
does the code not automatically require? Because it's A1.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
it's not yet.
Yep.
This has standards for the residential zoning, which is that west side buffering.
Sure. Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on this.
Gave you a lot to digest.
And just to be fair, because it's so conceptual in nature, we're gonna have to talk about anything and everything that can happen. So there's gonna be a lot of stuff that we discussed tonight that might not be applicable. Some of it likely, most of it likely is, but we're gonna have to obviously think worst case, right? That's fine. Okay. Public hearing? You guys ready?
Yes.
Let's do that. All right.
On a motion to open public hearing for rezone, I'm sorry, or conditional use 2502.
Second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. The public hearing for the pickleball courts is open. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to come speak to this item? Welcome back.
Thank you. Glad to be back. Chris Mooney, 1325 North Main Street. This is a little point of levity here. Right after, 2 years after I finished my MBA at UT Austin, I became the CFO of a smaller development company in Dallas. For projects, this is during a different racket related craze called oh dear, the wall ball, racquetball. We got some partners together and built a really nice racquetball facility in North Dallas. And 2 years, 3 years later, we had a ghost town. So, gentlemen, best of luck. Ads do change. Make sure you don't spend your last dime on this project. As the person living south of this, my concerns are landscaping, lighting, naturally. I'm a bit concerned about a group of drunk pickleball players out and about. I would be also concerned a bit about traffic flow since that's a 45-mile-an-hour road they're entering. Brandon, I'm sure you're would love to have a pickleball facility here. It's just, it's what it is. And it may be very popular. But I do have a concern about the alcohol and the lighting and I think that's pretty legitimate. It is. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Is there anyone else that'd like to speak to this? All right. Last call. All right, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
On a motion to close the public hearing for conditional use 2502.
Craig, I second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. The public hearing is closed. So let's just work through these one by one.
Can we start with number 3, even though it's not
Yeah, we can.
the
I would love
consideration? Number 3, proposed uses. Something, my question is, does our approval set/limit the size of each use number in a conditional use?
The square footage?
Square footage.
Yeah,
Good question.
that's a good question. I wouldn't think so. No, we could. And I think you're making sure that we don't, right?
I want to make sure that
I mean, you can
the
limit,
compatibility still exists.
For sure.
yeah, you can limit the size, and that's kind of why we have the retail less than 4,000, over 4,000, because.
Yeah. We're dealing with, well, go ahead.
I was gonna say, along with that is, I mean, just going in, looking at the parking space proposal, there is a significant,
We got a lot of building,
a
not
lot of building, not a lot of parking. So I'm wondering, to your point there, if the building is gonna have to come down, smaller square footage in order to accommodate the parking space requirement for that area.
I would say I'm more concerned about setting versus limiting. So limiting would be, it can be no larger than 24,000 square feet, whereas setting is, it
Minimum.
has to be 24. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I don't think we want to do that. They need to have room to.
You're saying the way this is written, and I think I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
If they're at 24,000 of 1 foot, they violated the permit.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Or 19 or 23
Can we,
999, they
can we keep
violated.
it as general as we're talking about the uses here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that, Brian, is that fair?
I'm sorry, I was reading the case. Go ahead. Ask that again.
In the proposed uses, we have 4 different listed uses in this conditional use. They list a square footage for the buildings. I think they got a lot of building and not enough site. So we don't want to lock them in at this is what it is. I guess you could set it as a max.
That's what I'm wondering is if it's max, because then we're dealing with PUD on the additional phasing later. I mean, I don't wanna paint ourselves in a corner, but I wanna also not open ourselves up.
Right, so can we focus on the uses and not so much this?
You can remove, like removing this.
Remove the square footage.
This approved conditional uses because we're looking at uses right now.
I'm good with that.
Those sizes are
I
subject.
think that's good.
Yeah, they need to be subject. Yeah.
We just
Exactly.
listed them in here so you knew how much of each use.
Yeah, and that's why, that's what I wanted to make sure we weren't like,
That's what they're doing, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. There was no imply that
We'll
it needs
just
to
list
be
the
conditional.
uses in the approval letter, not how big
Big it
each
is.
unit is.
Yep.
Unless you guys want to.
All right, number 4, phasing. Is everybody up to speed on the phasing? We got the court, indoor courts, the reception, the pro shops, phase 1. Bar, restaurant, green space area, and outdoor courts. Green space area. Because we're doing indoor courts first, so I think that. Obviously, parking will have to be in. Yes. Access, let's talk about cross access. We need to require that here, both to the north and the south. Does anybody disagree with that? No?
So Joey, also on the phasing 2, the drainage, like if the detention pond or anything will need to be put in place.
Yeah, I think they're mainly just talking about what buildings are gonna be done. Obviously, they're gonna have to follow code. They're gonna have to have a detention pond. They're gonna have to have parking, landscaping, all of that with the first phase.
Okay.
Again, we're back to Craig's question on. We don't wanna get too literal with this, I believe.
Skill development, so it's just.
Yeah.
The conditional use.
Yeah, this is almost bridging the gap between PUD and conditional use right now. All right, screening requirements. Tony, I completely agree. I think all sides need to have screening. We need to focus on, in my opinion, on the west due to the existing single family over there. We need to have items for the north and the south. And I believe some street trees would be appropriate as well. More importantly, we don't have any sort of idea what they're gonna do on the pickleball courts, especially the outdoor one. We don't know what kind of material that's gonna be, but it needs to be sufficiently screened, not only in view, but in sound. So I think that could play in depending on what they use there, but I think we need to state that.
So with this being basically a year away to develop, per se, in our Article 15, hopefully we get that passed a lot sooner, then would they fall under the Article 15 that we passed? Okay, very good.
This is a opportunity because it's a conditional use to add additional requirements. Just based on what they're proposing. So another thing here, there's no dumpster shown. Per all of our plans, we're gonna want a masonry dumpster enclosure. Gonna want that sufficiently screened as well. Also probably, we don't want it facing the right of way. What other screening requirements do y'all have?
I know that, this is an example where my parents live in Bentonville near the Memorial Park tennis courts. They did an earthen berm. It is wonderful. It looks good. And they are literally right next door and we don't notice it. But it's nice to have the access to it, so.
In our new code, I think if we kind of look at that and apply some of those standards where they either have to do a berm, they'll have different tiers of landscaping that provide that, not the screening, in addition that those berms do help block the sound.
Yes.
tremendously.
Okay, so if you guys are curious what our Title 15 draft says let me double check my fancy chart. Yeah,
I can pull it up if you tell me the general-ish page.
the general is page drafts. 96-ish. We have two different versions. Okay, so C3, Okay, so C3, when it's adjacent to A1 and R2, which are our two zonings here, they would have to do our intense or our dense screening, which includes, a lower screening shall be provided from the ground to a height of 6 feet plus trees featuring a mature height of 45 feet. And then the lower screening may be comprised of a wall, fence, landscaped earthen berm, planted evergreen vegetation or existing evergreen vegetation, or a combination of any of these. So they have to provide a lower screening and then a taller upper screening, and that lower screening can be a berm.
Can you show that exhibit, Diane?
Yeah, I'm trying to picture out.
Yeah.
There it is.
That's our exhibit.
I
Keep
think
going.
you're on. The other thing is, that's just the screening between residential and commercial base, not accounting for use per se.
But A1 is part of this screening.
I do also agree. I think, Ben, that your comment on trying to relocate that. I think that's probably a good idea as well.
Right there you go. So it's a two-tiered
Sure.
dense screening requirement. But you guys can put the specific condition that you want to see a berm. instead of a
I
fence.
wouldn't, I'd rather, yeah, I don't want a wall or a fence, I would say. Earth and burn or vegetation. Something green.
Could it be a berm? Could it even be like a dry stack wall?
I think you're still gonna want a fence.
Joey, can I add one more item? Without being totally-
There's not one there.
Yes, sir. It's not supposed to, but yes, sir.
On the north side of my property sits 150 Concord, 50-year-old Concord grapevines. I'm not sure how I'll defend myself. I have checked, I can put up a barbed wire fence legally. They'd like to come up with a proposal to keep their players after playing and drinking all night out of my grave.
I think they can do that, and we'll definitely be looking for some screening along all sides, essentially. I don't think they want that as much as you don't want that. So, berm, some sort of vertical structure
Yeah.
against the west.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm okay with that.
North and south too.
Now, what if they adjust the location?
You want the
I think
berm on any outdoor.
It's on
I
it.
think it still requires it anyway. Doesn't matter if the.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I'm just making.
Yeah,
The question.
I think it would be a really good sound and visual.
If they flip it, you have the building, how much sound's getting out of the building. You still want the berm or still the two-tier, and if the outdoors on the east side. Again, the berm, if you're looking at noise, makes the most sense, because the building will really block most of that sound.
As long as it's not metal.
We're getting there, buddy. All right. So we've covered screening. Where's my spot here?
You guys skipped one, I think.
What did we skip?
Hours of
Lighting?
No.
Hours of operation.
Where are you?
Yeah, hours of operation,
Hours of operation.
Yeah.
back it up.
That's number 9. We were only on like number 4.
You just
No.
skipped
Number 11.
Well, like I said, we got off track.
Excited.
So 7,
Go back.
gonna go.
Hold on, I'm gonna cover utilities.
Excited them for you.
Looks like all utilities are here. Just a frank question, what sort of impact is the sewer gonna have on this? And how does that impact their conditional use?
Well, they will, well, they'll go through the same process as everyone else in the same waiting. We're working on a plan with the sewer and I'll update you with that, but
Sure, but if they literally can't start, or will they have the ability to start?
if they can't start, then they'll do like the others that come back and we just renew them.
Okay, just wanna make sure that didn't throw a wrench in there. Streets, Alan, what sort of street improvements is this gonna require?
Minor arterial D on the 3 lanes, that 10-foot drive, but it's RDOT approved, so I think in the last one, we were looking at a feet, you can do the sidewalk. taking a fee in lieu for the widening costs.
Okay.
We can present money, it's to RDOT, it's easier to get RDOT to do the rest of.
Question, I don't know if I heard something conflicting or if I'm just misreading it. But in the street section, number 6, says no trails are planned along this section of North Main Street, but we talked earlier in the presentation that,
It's the 10-foot sidewalk.
yeah, okay.
It's not like per the master trails plan, there's not a current proposed trail, specific trail leading
Gotcha.
through here. It's just a 10-foot.
I'd say we're gonna ask for the 10-foot sidewalk. Yeah. Along Main Street. Okay. Access. I think we covered that, but
That one.
cross connection to both sides. Okay. Number 8. Term of approval and expiration. Staff recommends that LSD plans to be submitted within 1 year of PC approval for the conditional use. If the condition is not met, the conditional use will require reapproval.
I think we should add a caveat in there unless
Yeah.
request extension
Mhm.
or
Okay.
extension is requested.
Well, I don't want that to be a blanket request either. I think if it's for items outside of their control, that we should consider that. But I don't think indefinitely we should accept requests on this to.
That was,
Not consistently. It would be based on the things that they can't control.
Right, okay.
I think we typically worded that if this condition cannot be met, then they can.
Apply for a
Yes.
okay. Number 9, hours of operations. The outdoor courts run 8 AM to 9 PM, indoor courts 6 AM to 11 PM. Bar and restaurant 11 AM to 10 PM. Pro shop clarification needed by owner. I'd imagine worst case, it's gonna be open when the indoor courts are open. Okay, so with that, there was mention of shared parking. I don't know, I think parking's later down here.
Yeah, parking's.
But in regards to these hours of operation, I find it real hard to make a justification on shared parking. Just throwing that out there. But as far as the hours of operation go, I don't see a problem with it. The indoor courts, courts are early at 6 AM, but that should be the least impactful to anybody.
I remember when the gas station got approved on the other corner, we limited the hours to make them close between 11 and 5, or like 11 and 6.
11 and 5 is the curfew hours typically.
11 PM to
11 PM to 5 AM, so they're saying 6, so.
6 is
This would
fine.
mean that- I did wonder about winter hours on the outdoor courts.
If they have
I
lights.
would say this would be 9 PM would be the max, but
Yeah.
Sure.
but I don't know. I don't know if it's just me. By 7 o'clock, I'm ready, in the winter. It's.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people are gonna be playing 8 PM pickleball in like January, but I could be wrong, I don't know.
I wondered about outdoor courts, 9 PM being like
Little
on the
late.
weekend, actually being a little early. In the summer, 9 PM, they're still light. Do we have other places that are,
Yeah.
do we have other
What do we,
places?
what
that
do we do? What do we do for the baseball cages? It's kind of similar.
Yeah.
We had light restrictions and daylight restrictions on them.
Talking about legacy, they didn't want to put in lights outside, so they were constricted.
Yeah.
by-
I was thinking of you know what those are? Yeah, ace batting, that's what.
Ace batting.
Oh, the
That's what
one
I'm talking about,
out-
actually, not legacy, I'm talking about ace
Yeah.
batting one, yeah.
Hey, look.
They put in lights and we did, because there are some residential areas around there, and we talked about how late they can stay open with the hanging of bats.
Did we
and
do
lights.
a weekday and weekend?
We could
So-
always just consider their 9 PM and then if.
Yeah,
Wanna
that's
go
what they asked for,
they can
so-
do that. We can ask them.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
If they want to ask for it, it's
Yeah,
fine.
do you have the condition stated that if they want to change the hours, they have to come back?
Number 10, lighting. I think that's gonna be a big one as well. depending on where this goes, but we're gonna look for cutoff lighting, so there's no light trespass onto any adjacent neighbor. So please take that into consideration. Did y'all have anything else on that?
That was my big,
So we'll expect a photometric plan with the large scale. Screening and landscape screening. I think we hammered that one pretty good. Anything to add on that before we go?
I had a question on lighting, actually. So I know, again, just to use the frame of reference of where my parents live, that they have the automatic lights.
Mhm.
Now, they can't come on after a certain time, but if they're not in use for a designated time, that they kick off after dark. I don't know if we can require that.
Would be.
Would y'all be open to that?
And that would be an architectural thing, but yeah, we could.
It's
work with you all about it.
save you some money too.
Sounds legit.
It'll save you some efficiencies. It'll shut off when no one's using it, which
Yeah.
at 8 o'clock in the snow. Right.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Hours of operation for Ace Batting. We had all recreation and business activities shall be restricted to between the hours of 7 AM and 10 PM on weekdays and 10 AM and 10 PM on weekends.
Okay, so we're within that range. I just want to make sure that we're not,
And they asked for 9 PM.
we're not outside the range of what we've already.
Yeah. They can come back if they want to.
Okay. Next up, landscaping, I think that kind of goes with the screening that we talked about, but yes, I think interior landscaping, street trees, obviously the buffering. We want it to look good. It's adjacent to residential, and so we're gonna expect it to blend in as well as it can. Parking requirements. Again, I think Brandon stated it first, it's a lot of building there for parking. Looks like as of now, you're 155 short. Do you have any plans to?
Well, so one of the retails, actually, we were told yesterday, is gonna end up being like a drive-through coffee shop, so that might not even.
That doesn't,
It doesn't include all this, right?
It doesn't
It's not
include
included.
those
No,
buildings.
this is just that complex. That's the pro shop. Yeah.
This is me talking. I think there's some latitude in the required parking. There's a lot of required parking, right? But I think what's given now probably doesn't even accommodate the pickleball courts.
Yeah, we understand.
So we're gonna need some work on that.
Yeah, if it's, 20 pickleball courts, there's obviously a certain amount of people that can
Correct.
facilitate that at one given time. I think so in the large scale, we're gonna be able to see those types of things. Make some sense in the parking. But like the restaurant, pro shop, I mean, those. There might be some overlap, but those are pretty consistent.
And we do have some flexibility there, which is not that flexible. Not that-
Yeah, no.
We'll get into the nitty gritty one.
Yeah. You may have to change the sizing of the buildings or that, the black area that's unused or whatever, just to accommodate spaces.
The coffee shop too, I think would be pretty critical. Obviously it's a busy street, right? Gonna wanna make sure we have adequate stacking and we're not backing people up into there and making that situation worse than it already is.
Coffee shop is not with this condition.
I know, but I'm just telling them, because they're gonna master plan the whole thing.
Yeah.
Are you suggesting any more of a parking spaces per court? Cause like you said, I look at it's the same as like a golf course program. People don't loiter there. They're there, well, and they're gonna go use the courts.
Right. But I think things like that, we can work through if it's logical. But yeah, I mean, just looking at the courts, I'm not sure that there's enough on there. What, can you have 4 players per court?
I'm 4 plus, I mean, if you had a group,
Not just the courts, but I mean, there's a restaurant.
That too.
Right.
We haven't even talked about
Well, the
restaurant.
restaurant has its own, it's 54
Yeah.
spaces, but the courts are gonna be 4 to 8 people per court. By square footage.
One other thing, you gave some elevations. I understand where you're at in the process. I think these look great. I don't think it's probably right to say they have to look like this, but I think this is something that we're going for. Obviously, don't want a big metal building out there. We're gonna be looking for Nice materials. I love the glazing, like that's great. We want this to fit in with the neighborhood theme.
And the owner does too. You know, I mean, he wants to be a good steward of the community, so he wants to make it walkable and access.
I do like that your outdoor space is kind of in the middle, right? You don't have drunkards jumping over the berm, right? They're kind of enclosed, contained, right?
Let me get the line off the grid.
Not that I would jump over the berm. Kidding, man. I'm kidding.
Oh, landscape screening.
No.
Exactly.
No, I mean, it's the noise, and I'm sure, there were stray balls that fly over the fence and things like that. You just be cognizant of the folks that live around there.
Did we miss any items?
One thing that we wanted
Fairway.
to talk to you, go back to the parking
Mhm.
and maybe a condition that instead of, excuse me, using the assembly for the pickleball courts, you look at more the usage. How many people would be
100%. Yeah.
that condition?
Like I said, I think we have some latitude as long as it's logical and makes sense.
Mhm.
Have to
Cause
write-
this is kind of atypical for parking requirements, right?
I just want to make sure we write the condition that way so that they don't have to come back and get a variance for their parking later.
Correct. Unless we feel it's just way.
Yeah.
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 We-
If the planning commission denies it.
Right.
There consideration for green space in this plan?
Not with the PUD.
It'll
Or
be
it-
with
it's
the
not a
large
PUD.
scale.
It's with the large scale.
The next step for them will be to come with an actual more detailed plan.
Can we go over, speaking of PUD, there's a mention in there that certain buildings would have to be with the PUD?
If there's any addition, this is, the request was just for, it's just going to be for the pickleball court, the complex use. When they come with it, they really wanted to make sure that if they could get the conditional use approved, because that's their anchor for this development before they go and do the whole PUD.
And is that not covered? I had a question on that then. If they're only looking at the conditional use, is that not covered in the zoning approved uses as recreation or whatever? Is that not one of the approved uses that's already for C3?
No.
It's a conditional.
It was like
Recreation, outdoor recreation and alcohol consumption.
alcohol consumption is probably what makes it.
Additional in C3.
Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough.
So it's mini golf. Get someone put one of them.
We had like
Okay.
sports. recreation.
So I guess, obviously this, in theory, these should match, these requirements that we talked about should match PUD when it comes back. So we'll rehash that at that point. But yeah, does anybody have any other topics to discuss? Nothing down here? Cool. I'd entertain a motion. I'd love to hear somebody try to summarize everything that we just discussed.
I can't watch this. John, I motion to approve conditional use 2502 contingent upon the notes taken and recorded by staff.
Hey, second, go.
Very good.
Got a motion and a second.
Yeah, like that.
Can we get a roll call, please?
John Sessoms,
Yes.
Frank Langford.
Yes.
Dave Murphy.
Yes.
And Lewis. Brandon Swoboda.
Yes.
Tony Davis. Joey Engel.
Yes. All right. The conditional use pass. Thank you. All right, item C is rezone 2502, City of Centerton, rezone from A1 to C2, north of the northwest corner of Keller Road and Centerton Boulevard, about 19 and a half acres. Bill, are you the applicant?
Yeah, yeah.
Denied.
Trying to do, want to do is the city is proposing to put between a 46 and 50,000 square foot community center with future expansion on this site. Reason for the rezone is just so it matches schedule of uses and fits within what we're trying to do. Basically, we'll come back with a large scale and all that at a later time. We're working through it now. We just want to get this step further out of the way.
All right. Quick question, staff, is there not a civic use?
Our zoning.
Well, I'll talk about it. Don't you worry.
Okay. All right, then Kayla, take it away.
Yeah. So
Thank you,
this
Bill.
parcel is located on the west side of Keller Road between West Centerton Boulevard and Bliss Street. The properties to the south are zoned A1 and to the north is the Crystal Cove Townhomes. The property has access from Keller Road. There's also a stub out to the north to connect to Crystal Cove Townhomes, and there's no existing structures on site. There is a soccer field currently on there that's being used that way. The requested zoning is C2 highway commercial, which is typically used for highway traffic. The setbacks are in your packet for you. So this parcel is along Keller Road, which is designated as a minor arterial with a right of way of 90 feet on the approved master street plan. The typical street sections for minor arterials include 10-foot trails on both sides. However, on the master street plan, the master trails plan, the McKissick Springs Loop, which is a 12-foot trail, is designated along Keller Road. For utilities, Centerton Water is available along Keller Road, and then a sanitary sewer line is also along Keller Road and runs along West Centerton Boulevard. So per the land use plan, this area is designated as public/semi-public, which is defined as being used for a variety of uses that generally serve the public, such as municipal facilities, other government facilities, schools, religious institutions, community centers, and other uses or buildings generally open to the public and providing community-related services and amenities. These uses provide essential facilities and services to the community and are scattered throughout the city. The surrounding land uses are for commercial, business park, and medium high density residential, even though they're not quite zoned for all of that just yet. This parcel is in node 6 on the growth accommodation plan, which has the intent of expanding Centerton Boulevard to the west towards Decatur in a manner that can effectively and efficiently accommodate the significant population influx the city is expecting well beyond the life of this plan. So based on the goals of the current comprehensive plan in this area, the rezone request for C2 is consistent. This property is designated for public/semi-public use, and in the current Title 14 zoning code, we don't have a zoning district for public/semi-public. Those uses outlined in the schedule of uses that are most suited towards being in a commercial zoning, which allows a greater flexibility in what municipal/public uses are allowed by right. I've included a snippet of the schedule of uses in your packet for you. As the mayor said, we're looking at perhaps maybe putting the community center there, which is allowed by right in C2, but the other municipal uses are listed in your packet for you for consideration. This parcel is located on the west side of Keller Road between West Centerton Boulevard and Bliss Street. As I've already stated, the properties to the south are undeveloped, zoned A1. And to the north is the Crystal Cove Townhomes, which are zoned RTH MF12, which are townhomes. The property to the east is currently undeveloped, zone A1, and to the west is undeveloped, zone C2. So based on the surrounding uses and zonings, the rezone request for C2 is compatible. There are a few goals from the comprehensive plan outlined in your packet for you. The one I want to highlight is item 143, which is that research. We needed to research the need and opportunity to develop a facility for public gatherings such as a library or community center, which this rezone supports. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
All right, thank you. Let's go ahead and open the public hearing for this.
Motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
All right, we got a motion and a second to open the public hearing for the Centerton rezone from A1 to C2. Is there anyone that would like to come discuss that? No takers. All right. Final call.
Are you okay with this? Yeah.
Entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
On a motion to close the public hearing for rezone 2502.
Second.
All right, motion and a second, public hearing is closed. Any discussion here before we go through our questions? I have one question. Kayla, on the land use plan, sometimes I get this confused on how we shade things. Was it proposed land use was like a civic use essentially?
Public/semi-public.
What's the benefit of zoning C2 over leaving it ag and doing a conditional use?
Simplicity. Not having to go
It
through.
also conforms with our land use though.
It does conform with the land use. I was gonna go a little harder on that, but it does match, so. I was just wondering. Also adjacent to the business park. All right. We're gonna step through our questions here. A, is the rezoning consistent with the adopted comprehensive plan, including the adopted land use plan? If not, why? I do think, they don't have it up there, but I do think it is consistent. There's commercial to the south, medium, high density residential to the north and east, and a business park to the west. Anybody disagree? Yep. Item B, is the proposed rezoning compatible with the surrounding area and zones? Back to what I just said about what's surrounding it. And that's townhomes to the north?
High density.
Gotcha. And you also have existing C2 to the west. Is that the storage shooting?
I think that's one more over.
That's this one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
C2.
The other one just has an old shop and that was in the front, that was an auto mechanic shop. I think.
Yeah. Okay, any discussion on that one? All right, would all the permitted uses in the new zone be compatible in this location and surrounding areas?
I might, from a technicality, say no,
I don't disagree.
because permitted uses in C2, like a hotel or a gas station, would not be compatible.
I agree with them. You agree, Brandon? Yep.
That would be great.
All right,
Centerton Boulevard?
If you were on the one down.
right next to the community center? Item
Okay,
D,
not hotel.
Same property.
would the rezoning provide a benefit to this landowner but not be considered for other similar properties in the area? To me, it looks like we've considered this and approved C2 on adjacent properties in the area, so I'm gonna say no, there's no benefit to this landowner. Anybody disagree? Item E, if the public's opposed, why are the objections based upon factual information relating directly to this request or opinion based? Does any factual information presented apply to this situation? And as far as we had no input in person, as far as I know, there's no input on. So, unless y'all have anything else to talk about, I'd entertain a motion for this one.
But for the record, we did send out mailing, post our sign, publish in the newspaper. So we met all of
I
our.
was hoping you would follow your own rules.
We did.
We did.
All the notification requirements were met. We didn't receive any comments from the public.
Thank you.
John, motion to approve rezone 2502.
Second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Can we get a roll call, please?
Fred Langford,
Yes.
Devin Murphy,
Yes.
Randy Swoboda,
Yes.
John Sessoms,
Yes.
Tony Davis.
Yes.
Joey Engel.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right, that item passed. Thank you, Bill.
No, I'll get a no.
Okay, now, time to talk about the Langman Estate Winery. This is at 11507 West Highway 72, Zone C2, 5.61 acres. And I assume Mr. Sawyer's here to talk about that. He'll never pass up an opportunity at a podium.
Will not pass up an opportunity to talk. You know me too well. Good evening. I'm Tim Sawyer with Sand Creek Engineering and would entertain any questions that you all have.
What do you got for us, Tim?
Well, we've got a building that was put in 2015 that I think you all are familiar with. And the use is hopefully going to be changing. And so that change use, and if you want to, the operator is here and can answer your questions. Because the intricacies of what he's doing all revolve around wine, since I'm not a wine guy, you know, unless it's like grape jelly. I can't really speak to that. But what we're trying to do is change out the interior use. There's no formal kitchen. There will be some food, but no formal kitchen, no grease type stuff that can't be handled inside the building itself. They're wanting to add on the back patio and ultimately expand it. for an outside seating area that can only be really accessed through the building once you come in the front doors, but you can leave via the sidewalk that we're taking around there to the west. We've got additional parking that we need to accommodate for. And in working through with staff, we dealt with the fact that we really didn't want to cut out holes in the parking lot to plant trees in an existing parking lot. So what we're showing you there is the needed restriping, as well as the additional parking along the west. And then a little modification there to the little island so that we have the proper backing out dimension from those parking spaces. You see that interior island? Okay. So that's really kind of the long and short of what we're trying to accomplish. There are a couple of waivers, I think, that have been requested that we probably need to delve into a little bit. And again, I'll answer any questions that you've got, or I'll try.
Thank you, sir.
It was gonna make that a draft, I was wondering.
The coffee shop's still staying.
Coffee shop is still staying, yes.
Miss Kayla, you wanna run us through it?
So the applicant is proposing to convert the existing 72 West building along Highway 72 into a winery with the addition of outside patio seating. Change of use from retail to restaurant with the addition of the outside seating requires additional parking. So the applicant, they are requesting a waiver for the requirement to add sidewalk and street trees along Highway 72, which we'll get into a little further in. So there's one existing structure on the site. It's a metal building with a little over 5,000 square feet. The Wicked Bean coffee truck is also parked and operates on site. They are continuing to operate. The applicant plans to re-outfit the existing building to serve as a winery. There are some architectural elevations in your packet for you for how they're changing the outside of the building. They're just changing their signage, updating the front door a little bit. For the drainage, there's no proposed changes to the existing detention pond on site. The proposed changes to the site are minor in nature and require very little grading. No downstream impacts are anticipated. A drainage letter was submitted and was approved by the city engineer. For the utilities, as they said, no additional utility improvements are required with this change of use. Since they're not adding a full kitchen, they don't need like the grease trap and everything that would require improvements. All existing utilities will suffice. For lighting, the applicant is proposing to add a light at the entrance to the site and then within the site to provide adequate lighting, as well as additional wall packs on the building to light up the parking in front of the building and the refuse collection area. The photometric plan in your packet needs to be updated to show the additional wall packs. So you'll see my comment in the report was that we need addition of lighting on the southeast side of the parking lot because according to this photometric plan, it's quite dark over there. But there are additional wall packs being added to the building. So we'll just need an updated photometric plan and we ask that any approval be on receiving that to make sure there's adequate lighting. For trash enclosure, there is a wood dumpster enclosure existing on the site. The owner of the site, which he is here, is requesting to leave the dumpster enclosure wood, as they recently did repairs to the enclosure. And they are proposing landscape screening around the enclosure to make it be a little prettier. So for PC consideration, as we do with all other minor site improvements, should the applicant be required to update their dumpster enclosure to be masonry with gates that aren't made of wood to match the requirements we do for all other large scale. And then for landscaping and screening, there are trees proposed north of the existing parking to screen the parking from Highway 72. And then trees are proposed along the south of the proposed outdoor patio and around the dumpster. For screening, I put a little picture of what the trees look like that they're proposing for screening. I know you guys are visual people. The property to the south is zoned R2, which triggers residential compatibility standards. So per Title 14 residential compatibility standards, decorative walls, vegetative screening, fencing, or earthen berms, or other type of screening as approved by the Planning Commission shall be provided to completely screen off-street parking areas, mechanical equipment, storage areas, and refuse collection areas from the property. Consideration, do they need additional landscape screening along the south property line due to the change of use and the addition of the outdoor seating? So if they need any additional screening, this is your time to have it. For adjacent streets, this property is adjacent to Highway 102, which is designated as a.
72.
What did I say? 102. Highway 72, which is designated as a major arterial with a planned right of way of 100 feet on the adopted master street plan. The property will dedicate a minimum of 50 feet of right of way to meet the master street plan requirements. In some areas, the right of way dedication exceeds that required 50 feet due to the location of the existing highway. For planning commission consideration, the applicant has submitted a waiver request for the installation of sidewalk and street trees along Highway 72 to be waived due to future improvements on Highway 72. Additionally, they're not anticipating foot traffic to be generated by this business, so they ask that the sidewalks be waived as they don't seem necessary at this time. The Public Works Director supported the waiver request. The city engineer had comments on the waiver. The waiver letter kind of alluded that maybe right-of-way really doesn't even need to be dedicated because there's an existing highway. But we've since talked about it and they will be dedicating that right-of-way, so we don't have to worry about that comment. For sidewalk, it's important to note that to the north, Tower Park subdivision is up there and we're requiring them to put sidewalks in along Highway 72. So we've kind of set a precedent for sidewalks along Highway 72. Alan also said, just because they don't expect foot traffic does not mean people from Beckett Farms or Oak Tree would not walk, but Beckett residents would need to cross their frontage and other property before reaching the sidewalk. For trees, they have the space to place trees. Placement would require being sensitive around the corner for Highway 72 so that we're not blocking sight triangles. And then of course, making sure that we're not placing them in the dishes and whatnot, but the trees could be placed on the property. So that's really up to your guys' consideration. Happy to answer any questions.
Anything to add?
I just need to know what y'all are wanting outside of what we have proposed. Or if you've got any reservations about the waiver request.
Let's show the pond. I just want you guys to know part of where the pond location is. So sidewalk, can't get past the pond no matter what, pretty much. Just so you're aware, any sidewalk would need to pretty much stop at that pond.
You don't have room between the edge of the pond and the right of way, or is that not, is
Be
it different?
real close.
What's our future plan with sidewalk consideration for that area?
Caleb, where did you say put in sidewalk?
Tower Park is to the north, is where they're having to put
Oh,
sidewalks.
that's true.
Yeah, I'd be happy to speak to that one too. Yes, we can feed into that request, but to be done with the individual outlot, commercial outlots.
Sure.
And again, I'm gonna encourage you all that if a highway department project comes through, city works with that, the design of that needs to dictate the elevation, location of that sidewalk. And I really don't want to waste any money, whether that's city's money or any of my developers' money building a sidewalk that's gonna ultimately be ripped out.
Here's the deal though, if it's outside the right of way, they take it, they pay you for it to put it back, or they will replace it, right?
Yes. Yeah, that is a possibility, but again, where am I gonna locate it, Joey?
All right, let's,
So there is a plan for
is
sidewalk.
there a plan? I'm not aware of a
I
72.
don't know that it's on anybody's radar.
Not really a plan.
Right.
It's on the master plan because we want that connectivity, and I get that.
For sure.
But I mean, we might be talking 5 years out, 10 years out, 25 years out. I don't think we're talking 5 years out. It's not on the highway department's radar as far as I know.
Not for widening 72.
Yeah.
So I agree with the foot traffic. I think there'll probably be more than none. For sure. Now, the people from Oak Tree probably aren't gonna walk across the highway, but you got some,
Yes, they will.
you got some Beckett people there. Let's go one by one here. Lighting, are you good with adding the lighting southeast corner to Lulu? Okay. Trash enclosure, as Kayla said. Consistently what we've been requiring. Does anybody have any thoughts on that? Trash enclosure.
Diane, can you find a picture of the trash enclosure?
Yes.
It's in there. Looks like it's got a new.
Everybody can see it.
Steve just replaced the wood gates.
Down.
Is that oversized, Steve? That looks like a big trash enclosure.
I think it's 14 by 14.
And what would we do
We'll have to-
or if this was a brand new build?
Like a masonry.
Masonry?
With gates that aren't wood.
And we're trying to work within the parameters too of the overall budget of this remodel and site work, so. If it's a brand new project, I
Consistency, my friend.
I know, I got you. And I applaud you for doing exactly that and thinking about those things.
We required it everywhere else, right? Even on.
That we required it, we've considered it with all of them. Most of the time it ends up being, it's okay with the minor site, but if they expand and have a large scale in the future, they have to update it then.
Well, obviously, right? Okay. So,
To add another dumpster, because we looked at if they had a whole
right.
dumpster, we would make them upgrade them both.
And we were going to add another dumpster to keep the waste separated between the coffee shop.
gotcha.
But the cost to do that is like, well, we can't
Yeah.
do another heavy duty concrete pad and another dumpster with masonry around it all.
Is that big enough for two? You
I
got
don't-
two in there?
It's only gonna be one dumpster and it'll be shared between the two uses, but it will be a larger dumpster. So probably have two.
Okay.
So if consistency, for consistency's sake, if we, on minor site improvements, if we held, I mean, that, it does look to be updated, right? It's not dilapidated or anything. And that's really what we've.
Well, it looks maintained. I mean, it looks like the
Yeah.
baseboards that.
So, all right, so we good on that?
And it has two gates that can close.
And
Yeah.
you have your landscaping, you have landscaping screening around the enclosure.
That's correct. And from this angle, what you're seeing, you're gonna have a row of cars that are parked that are blocking you from that view too.
That's your new parking, right?
That's the new parking, that's correct.
You're gonna need.
You good? All right.
How's the truck get to it if you're parking in front of it?
He's offset.
Okay.
But it's still in.
Tim was being generous with
It's
his.
not like it's an object out there.
It means like 2 feet of it will be covered.
Sorry, yeah. It's only hiding it from a portion. I mean, you look straight down the drive, you're gonna see it, right? But if you look at the site triangles of what you can see as you're going past on the highway, you got a very narrow window that you're actually looking at that thing.
So we're good on the dumpster enclosure. Cool. Number 6, landscaping and screening. So. My thought is the south is, when this was originally constructed, when we got metal building, this was, when was this constructed, Steve?
2015.
15, really? That's right.
10 years.
That's right.
Yeah.
That subdivision wasn't behind there. My thought is that we could probably add something back there. And my other thought is that we should probably add some street trees. The right of way, it can be handled. There's plenty of space there, but it is tricky for sure. We need to look at grouping for the visibility coming around that corner.
I'd rather keep them away from the right of way. We got a lot of land.
Yeah.
Right?
Anything in
We can
front.
plant stuff over in the basin. We can plant willows over there or whatever, just, and I think, you go ahead. Sorry.
Steve Mitchell, I'm the owner of this property. I live at 11493, which is just around the curve. I just wanted to add that when they did Beckett Farms behind this property, they actually cut, I'm not sure exactly, but 8 to 10 feet from the grade at the fence line. They cut 8 to 10 feet down. So those houses actually set down. So if you're standing, if I'm standing, I'm 6'4". I'm standing and I'm looking at the houses behind me, I see the fascia. Now, there's a couple of them that are 2-story and obviously I can see a dormer and so forth, but you don't, and if you're, I have to believe in their house, when they look out, they probably see just a tiny little strip of the top of my building. They've built a privacy fence all down the property line.
But you're gonna be using that space out there for people to be able to sit, paying customers to sit
On the deck, yes, sir.
Out back, which currently you're not doing with the current business that you have.
There was no outside use of the current, what was the current business? That's correct. We did have large events there, Easter egg hunt, we've had car shows and so forth. And we've never had a complaint that I'm aware of from any of those. So, FYI.
And I don't think we're asking to plant a redwood forest or anything. We're mainly trying to adhere to code and things that we require everywhere else. Go ahead, Tim.
Can you pull up the drawing again?
Thinking more about sound.
Yeah,
So
and
there's,
I think you
we've
have.
got planting shown there.
Yeah.
On the south side of the.
Close to the outdoor to, again, because you want, if you're doing sound buffer, you're buffering it better the closer that barrier is to the noise that's where it's being generated.
Sure.
Okay, so if you move those trees out, you plant them on the fence, they're not as effective, even at full growth, as a buffer that's closer to your source. But if that's what we had done, working with staff to try to get some of that buffering and also make that space outside more private feeling.
Sure, you want some ambiance out back.
Yeah, are you looking for more than what we're?
I would be willing to take our standards from Title 15 and like use those to account for the requirement.
The numbers?
Yes, if,
Okay.
so there's likely probably more to be added.
Okay,
So if we could spread those out too,
okay.
I think personally, this is just me again. I think we can count those trees as part of that screening buffer because it is gonna screen the building, but I have a feeling that's a real long stretch, right? So I have a feeling that there might be a few more additional.
Okay. And then the plan is to doll this up with the landscaping beyond what is shown here. But this was the trees, I think, that Ken had staff place as far as.
They're evergreen, right?
I think there's a mix.
Are they?
Yeah,
The ones that are screening are evergreens, the ones that are in the parking lot are shade trees.
Maples, okay, yeah. Yeah, so those, the ones you have out back are
A pretty picture.
evergreen.
Always handy.
I mean, what does everybody else think? Are you willing to count some of those trees?
I'd count them, because I mean, they're doing what they're supposed to do, so.
Agree.
so do I need to come up with a count for the required street trees and figure out where to place them on the side is what you're asking me?
So it'd be both, right? So there'd be a rear screening requirement against the residential.
Okay.
Be a requirement for that,
Okay.
but let's say it's 30 trees, right? You have 20, I think, shown.
Okay.
So there'd be 10 additional on the rear. And then the requirement for street trees, you're gonna have to do some grouping up front.
Okay. Okay, so Jim is working with Master Gardener, Bella Vista Master Gardener, whatever, to do the landscaping. In talking with them earlier, I'm assuming you all have a size requirement at time of planting.
Yeah.
Do you know what that is?
It's in our draft Title 15. I can find it for you.
2 inches typically what is required.
Yeah, it's not anything abnormal.
So, but thought that we had, because who's working with, we've got space. We don't want to plant trees in areas that we may future expand to, right? And whether that's parking or additional buildings. But, I'm not the landscape guy, but I also know that they can get a whole bunch of trees a whole lot cheaper than a 2-inch caliper, right? And we can really plant a lot of plantings, 2-3 times the number. If that is more desirable long-term and plant them in a strategic,
So
way.
I think we have to show the minimum requirement on the plans. I believe that staff, I mean, if y'all go out there for inspection, final inspection, and the trees are different, is that an issue?
Let's at least match the plan.
Okay.
And we can do that. I mean, you can get forestry service trees cheap. I mean, you really can, because I bought a bunch of persimmons trying to entice deer, go figure. But at some point you can do that economically and also end up with a better product, I think. And if your 2-inch caliper is in a draft format, but isn't actually written, if I understand the code, you all get to say yay or nay. So if we were going to do something like that, would y'all entertain that one? If so, what kind of multiplier do you want to add? You know, because to me, I
Are you
plant
saying you're planting smaller trees?
than a 2-inch. Yeah.
So.
I mean, you buy a 2-inch at the nursery, you're spending, you know, I don't know, 150, 200 bucks depending on tree probably.
That's a atypical question, right?
I come out of the box, you know.
I know. I gotta go back to the default answer. We gotta match what we require everywhere else as a minimum. And that's all that we ask for.
Okay.
If you want to do smaller ones. Additionally, I think that's fine.
But the minimum count that's required by your code is what you want to see on the site.
Unless anybody else feels differently, unless you want to go
I-
1-inch caliper and do double.
I think that opens the door
I do
for
too.
a lawyer to say no.
I do too.
I would go with what's standard, and then we even talk about the months of planting months and stuff, and they don't plant those arborvitaes in August. It's 120 degrees, right? I mean, all that's in our code. I just feel like we'd open the door for a lot of other stuff.
So if I'm clear in talking through that we're providing the right of way, that wasn't I think intended to be on a waiver request, that the right of way dedication is happening. The sidewalk we're not requiring, and the count on the trees to be placed on site with sensitivity to the screening of Beckett to the south is what y'all are looking for.
Yeah. So right of way trees placed. Not on the right of way line. You have a lot of room to work with, right? For the.
You want them in front
Yes.
somewhere?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And then the residential screening requirement in the rear, taking into account the trees that you already have around the deck.
Pond side counts as front, that's all 72.
What's that?
The pond side.
Yeah, that's a
Front.
It's a frontage.
Again, the visibility coming around that corner is somewhat.
Really what I'm gonna be worried about.
Beckett spans the whole length, right?
Yeah, well, no, because.
Houses are.
That stops right there. yeah.
Stops on that corner, right?
Yes.
Yes.
There you go.
Okay.
And the west is,
So I don't have to screen. Steve.
What's that? What's it zoned on the parcel to the east of
the
Beckett?
west is the Public Works Building.
East of Beckett. Is that residential or is that commercial?
Yeah, that one right there.
That's
That's your house, right?
That's mine, yeah. What-
Zoned.
Agriculture.
It's ag, then
It's A1.
if it's ag, then the code is against residential uses.
Draft code, yeah.
Is everybody good with that? We screen the frontage of Beckett?
No, I'm sorry. Say it again.
So Beckett, the subdivision to the south, and see how it doesn't go all the way to 72?
Right here.
All right, I feel like our requirement should be right there along that zone, because that's what the requirement is. And if the other's ag, then I don't believe there's any screening requirements between those two.
Whatever the code says.
Yeah, exactly.
It's zoned R2.
Oh, well, never mind. Sorry about your luck.
Sorry.
You own it? He owns it.
Come on.
You may not tomorrow.
Just saying, man.
You're not on it tomorrow if it's, you know.
All right.
Proving the point, so you don't.
Adjacent streets. This is where your sidewalks come into play. What's everybody's thought on sidewalks? Let me ask another question. What's existing? Beckett?
No, back
No.
Beckett doesn't have it either?
No.
Beckett doesn't, Steve doesn't, and Public Works doesn't.
Public Works doesn't.
There's no.
Sidewalk,
It's nothing to connect it to.
Sidewalk on 72 in the city limits at all.
except Tim's other project,
Yeah.
when the commercial
It's
goes in.
not there yet, and until we get some sewer capacity, ain't gonna happen. So, just saying. A whole nother can of worms.
So,
I don't think we're.
you good? No sidewalk?
Like a flyover, you can walk over.
That'd be good. At the city.
I believe so.
Does that pin, just one, I'm fine with it, but does that pin us in for future development there at all?
Potentially, we're already pinned in for it, though.
Yeah.
Would-
Already pinned in. Beckett's on this side.
Require
this
Public
side,
Works or Beckett.
City,
No,
there's nothing to
there's no
connect.
requirement for the, at any time for any of that to connect and be on the hook.
You want me to tell you what looks bad? When the Public Works Department doesn't have sidewalk, they weren't required it, but the property next door has a minor site improvement and.
We require it, yeah, that makes sense.
And again, big.
It doesn't go anywhere except for on that property. There's nothing to connect to.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It doesn't have it either. So it's fire, public works and them. They, all three won't have sidewalk.
We don't want to be jerks. No, so.
All right, so some give and take there.
Thank you.
You're welcome. That
Cover
covers
the trees.
That
right?
covers your waivers, right?
That covers my waivers. Yes, sir.
Does anybody else have any questions, comments, concerns?
You know, my only question was, so the use now is different, right? It went from retail to restaurant. Was there a change of hours as well? And does that have any bearing on anything we're talking
I
about?
don't
I may have
know.
missed that when I walked out, but.
I don't think a conditional use would apply in this case. It would be standard hours of operation in the city code would be.
They're still within the approved use of that
Oh,
code.
I see, because there's not a change. Okay.
Yeah, it's not a change in code. They're not a change in zoning.
Prohibited use.
Yeah, it's not changing zoning. You're changing use.
It's not allowed.
That's what.
That's what I mean. Yeah, it's an allowed use in the zone.
It's allowed use in the zone.
Yeah.
So that doesn't change any of that. Okay.
Will this be ready for the summer?
Yes.
What kind of,
I know a guy who's got some grapes.
what kind of food are y'all gonna be serving?
So we have a small.
I'm just interested now.
First of all, thank you for doing this, because there's common sense, you know, I just got editorialized, because.
We don't hear that very often, so
We're originally from Chicago, and the property, we have vineyards in California, and this is the exact opposite. And, you know, we're only gonna be here for 3 years, it's 15 years, and we moved to Centerton 12 years ago, so thank you. Bless you. So it's just reassuring that we have the common sense in government, that's first thing, so thank you all for that and for your guidance. So we have a small property out there. We were originally gonna be here for 3 years. We had the plans to build a winery, the full winery out there, and after we were here, we said, wait a minute, this is a different life you can live. It's a living Norman Rockwell, it really is. And so this is, we thought of this 25 years ago, and that's what we're doing now. This is a remodel, so we're gonna continue to make the wine in California. We're gonna bring it here. We don't even sell our wine in California, so we wholesale it in 3 states. We ship it to 12 other states. And this is gonna be a community, something for the community. Right now, if you have to go to downtown Bentonville, it's $125 a person, right? We're not gonna have this. This is a place where people can bring their families. It's be a safe place for women to come. We'll have wines. The permit allows us to have a couple beer taps. We'll have a look from a local brewery. We'll have a full menu, but it won't have any flame, no grease, no grill. Because we want those smells in the winery, and we're trying to be as economical as we can to do this. The big thing for us, I'm a pharmacist by training, our wines have nothing artificial in them, so these are the no headache wines. And I love all the push to get artificial ingredients out of our food and everything else we consume. Because on the food side, it's gonna be the restaurant of affordable quality. And so this is it's a quarter of a century of work to this point. So I appreciate you guys doing your answer. We will be open this summer. We have everything staged and ready to go. As a pharmacist, I'm totally OCD. So as soon as we get this permit, I've got a yellow pad with three pages of stuff, and they're all color coded. This goes day 1. We want to get it open in 12 weeks. So that's all. And then I appreciate that the tree thing. If we can we'll submit the plan for it, it might be even prettier than is required. That'd be our goal. We're part of the community. We live right in Oak Tree. So we're gonna be closer than most of everybody else in Centerton. We'll be one of the closest neighbors. It'll be a positive for the community, and people will be able to sit on the deck and enjoy a nice glass of wine and something nice to eat and have a nice evening. The hour question, Monday through Thursday, 11 to 8, Friday and Saturday, 11 to 9, and then Sunday, 11 to 7. Thank you
Thank you so much.
Being part of the community, we appreciate that, John.
You can cut through Beckett and go play pickleball. Hop, skip, and a tongue.
That's a different kind of pug. I said, I knew you could do much better, but I've got to say, I haven't ever lived in Chicago, worked in Chicago or California. So y'all behave yourselves. not make it any more difficult than we have to, but no, I appreciate you too.
Awesome. Well, if there's no more discussion, I'd entertain a motion for item D, the Mormon Estate Winery.
So moved.
With our conditions.
I mean, with as, yeah, I mean, with the conditions met.
As stated.
As stated, motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed?
Thank
Yes, thanks, sir.
you, staff.
We're looking forward to it. Thank you. All right. Item E, subdivision 2306 Skyline Cottages and PUD 2204 Morningside South PUD prelim approval extension. Are these two different extensions on the same item?
Yes.
Okay.
Are they here?
They were not able to make it this evening. I'm double checking to see if they're on. They're not on there. Basically, they're asking for an extension of the PUD and the subdivision plans because they are stuck in the lovely conundrum of sewer capacity.
Project, yeah, obviously.
You're not trigger an automatic or will it all continue to have to come back?
Should we want to do that?
Yeah, we need to figure something out, but as of right now,
I'll come back.
they're
Come back.
stuck.
It's
So
quick.
they've had to come back. And they're asking that, I mean, again, this is probably something we need to work out, that they it's extended until they're released. by-
Yeah, I was gonna say, it doesn't have to be automatic, but it probably could be administrative approval. Just,
I think you have to set
If there's no
some,
change.
some requirements on that, on why it's. I don't know if it's legal, but if you could, based on the capacity.
if there's no change in code, there's no change in plan or anything like that.
There's about to be a change in code, hopefully.
Yeah, well, but then I would say it comes back at that point, but if there's no change.
That's like a double whammy though, like they wanna go.
Yeah, are we gonna
bring them back and
Make it,
slam them with a bunch of site development stuff?
And this was also due to a court case and required by.
Yeah.
Oh, is that this one?
Yeah, we know about.
Deny.
Well,
This one's lots of sticky wickets.
I mean, obviously, these are the two in front of us, so.
yeah, let's talk about these two. Anybody have any questions? Is it a 1-year extension?
They've asked, again, that's for you guys to decide. They've asked.
I would make it for 1 year.
Okay, not a problem.
All right, everybody agree on 1 year? Then I would entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve a 1-year extension for subdivision 23-06 Skyline Cottages and PUD 22. South PUD.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor? All opposed? All right, that item passed as well. On to other new business, Title 15, when we doing that?
Okay. We're going through, we're rereading, and we're kind of reorganizing and. Okay, it's like we worked in sections, and then when we go back and.
Never
Again, then
goes well.
it's like.
Some little
Okay.
things that need to be fixed.
So what we're gonna plan on is move the public hearing date to April 1st. April 1st there. So do the public hearing, but at the 3/18 meeting, so the next meeting, hopefully we'll have all of these done. And get it to you. And I'm hoping that we have this draft complete so that we can send it out to everyone
Great.
this week.
Great.
The end of this, by the end of this week is my. On 3/18, if you all see anything else that needs to be changed, that will be the last time we can change it. before-
Speak now or hold your peace.
So.
Awesome.
And then we're gonna send it out to the planning commission, city council, and department head, so everyone can look at it again. So I think it's
All right,
there.
I'm hopeful. And thank you all for getting the fee taken care of. I appreciate it. The bond,
The what?
the bond for the as-built and stuff.
Yes.
Thank you. Item B, any sewer update? That's just a standing item.
What, now, all right, Decatur has started the work. The first part of it for the capacity, the inflow. So they're working on the headworks. Crossland is doing that. They're under construction. That is expected. They think that they will actually finish it by December. That looks like it will increase the capacity. Right now, they're permitted for 3.8. You have some processing grades that they can do, that they think during this time, and they're hoping to get that capacity up to 5.2 or so million gallons per day. So that quite a bit, 1.2 million gallons per day. That will open up. We kind of did a rough estimate on just what we have in the system, what's going there, what we have, like open lots, preliminary, and also in the final plat, that it should handle that. We're under construction actually in the final. So.
But it's not it's not allocated to the city.
No. But and that's where we're also looking at getting, okay, there's still some analysis work that's being done. I met with the ADH on last week. They still have the difference in the flow rates of, using our actual numbers or using that 100 gallons per day.
They released I don't know what you
The
want to
new
call it.
technique.
The kind of clarification on what they were looking for, and basically they said you have to have a year's worth of flow monitoring at a minimum to use actual data instead of calculated data.
Okay, so and
That's not, it's not cheap.
he had said that they are evaluating the existing conditions along with the new designs, so they're waiting. They're working with them on that, but there's also still waiting on getting some analysis out of Decatur. Decatur's permit for 3.8, their ADQ permit is limited right now, so they're looking at with these new improvements, getting 5+ gallons per day, and so it expires in June. So we're looking in April that we should know a whole lot more.
And that'll cover everything that obviously that's currently approved, right? Just waiting.
Yes, it should.
Theoretically.
Well, no, I don't know. It all depends on which number, it all depends on.
Sure.
Which number, because that's like double. ADH, it's double to what?
Yeah, they're not gonna let you use the half number unless you have a year's worth of flow monitoring. So that needs to get started. That's obviously Malcolm Steel, but it's not cheap and it's unfortunate, but
Had those, I think we checked.
it'd have to be for the whole system.
So. Good.
Anyways,
So.
sounds like it's moving forward and that's
Yes.
good.
So, and then hopefully, in a year, their Decatur is going to continue to look at other improvements that they can do to really increase the capacity and processing. It's at least hopeful
Yeah, at least it's some news.
for,
And do.
yeah, it was like, what are we gonna do? But there's hope.
Great.
Let me ask this one for on this one. How many projects is this technically impacting? That
Well,
are
there's-
approved and unable.
That are.
Well,
under
they're in
construction.
different states too. There's some that are actually building homes, right?
So
Yeah.
you have subdivisions who have final platted and are building homes on lots, which add sewer to the already overcapacity plant. And then you have our projects that are under construction right now, that are adding, and then we have 4 projects that are under construction without ADH approval that have to be considered, and then we have projects that are preliminary approved that we're not letting start construction yet. So a lot.
There
That's a good question. How did they go to construction without ADH approval?
Because when we let them go to construction, at that point, the only capacity issue we knew we had was in our system,
Okay.
and they were already in progress
Okay.
getting fixed. They were like,
So it was ones that really didn't trigger a big study or anything, like they're smaller?
I mean, they were pretty big subdivisions, but the issue wasn't with Decatur capacity at that
It
point.
was with the line, the gravity lines here.
Yeah, it was our systems, and we were doing improvements at that time, so Malcolm thought it would be done and kind of serve those.
I mean, it would have been, but now they're treatment issues.
Yeah, that's what I understand.
All right, the only hold that we were aware were our issues.
Yeah.
On that.
But Greg, if you look at the staff report on the project, there's quite a few.
Well, I guess I should rephrase, how many are potentially coming back to us for extension? This is at a different.
Well,
Anything that gets.
we've got some developments also.
They're not on that list though, right? Like the previously approved ones? They
Yeah,
are? Okay.
yeah, I highlighted,
them a
I
different
put them in blue. Is that where that
Like total.
they're being held up. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6, well, there's 5 that, and this is last month's. So there's 5 that are, I think there's more than that now, because we had some outstanding comments, 5, 6, 7, 8, no, that one won't matter.
I'm wondering how many we're gonna have to reapprove.
Well, plus all the ones that we've
There were
already.
7 or 8 they're holding.
Do what?
I was thinking that there was like 7 or 8 that were holding for pre-cons.
Plus all the ones that are approved but can't go to construction, right? Like the ones we've been extending their,
Those, I'm including those.
only 7 or
That's
8?
what I'm talking about.
I thought I counted way more than that.
You foresee some of these, couple of these subdivisions building houses and they sit until,
No.
okay.
Well,
Yes, that's going on right now.
we already have that going on with 4 that we've released. That we've had pre-cons, they've started construction. And that's why now we're like, don't want to do any more. Now that we know that we've got a clog and we've got to wait till those get down the line before we do any more. I know that Tanzanite was one that not marked. That AJ they held off. They were like, God, something's going on. They were about-
Which one?
Get more than 1 PSI pressure.
But our next report, we'll be working on that Thursday. Have it by the end of this week and, we'll have updated numbers and stuff.
It'll come up.
We'll try to color it a little bit. Yeah.
I'm telling you.
Next time.
You guys have any other questions for us?
I know. We got some announcements.
One more thing.
Oh my gosh.
Grant.
Oh, it's not on the agenda.
They have had a committee that looked at, that call it a technical advisory committee that came and toured the downtown and what is our new downtown? And then that was on Monday, and then this is last week, and then Wednesday they met with different stakeholder groups. So one was city council and planning commission. Only Jeff showed up, so I don't know what he told them, but we can blame him.
Make a comment, I committed.
He's your leader.
It's gonna be
Positive on that thing.
Yeah.
virtual option, so that's pretty helpful when.
Yeah, it's
1 o'clock.
hard.
It is, so, but we'll know in a 2 or 3 weeks, they'll get back with us and we'll have a meeting.
See what Jeff told him?
Yeah.
He's your leader. You have no choice now.
If we don't like it, we'll
Something about more trees or something.
Uh,
like the other county property and to the church. Fiction game, so us. Yes.
All right, got some announcements there. Next council meeting is 3/11, next PCD meeting is 3/18, and the next tech review is 3/20.
If we haven't.
If we have any. So that is all we have tonight, so I would take a motion to adjourn.
Smooth.
There we go, motion and a second.